It was about me, about all of us, about how easy it is to chase applause and forget about purpose. God said, don't look at his platform, look at his posture. And when I did, I saw humility wrapped in conviction, a man who's not afraid to stand where others kneel or speak when silence feels safer. That's not arrogance, that's courage. And courage, my friend, is something this world's been running low on. The truth, what God showed me shocked me because it reminded me that even the loudest voices can be led by faith, that you can stand in fire and still keep your peace if your heart's anchored to the right source. So maybe the real message isn't about him at all. Maybe it's about you, about me, about what we stand for when no one's clapping. Because faith, real faith, isn't proven in comfort. It's forged in conflict. So here's the takeaway. Don't be too quick to judge who God's using. Don't assume the vessel defines the message. Sometimes the shock you feel isn't about them being exposed. It's about you being awakened. And when that happens, when God shows you something that rattles your understanding, don't run from it. Lean in. That's where transformation begins. Faith reveals truth. It's not something you stumble upon in a book or something someone hands you wrapped in shiny paper. It's something you live, something you walk through, often with your eyes closed, trusting that there's something on the other side worth finding. See, faith isn't about knowing. It's about moving forward when you don't. It's the quiet whisper in your chest that says, keep going, even when everything else is telling you to turn around. We live in a world that worships proof. Everyone wants evidence, everyone wants data, everyone wants a sign before they take a step. But that's not faith. Faith doesn't ask for proof. It becomes the proof once you take the step. It's the difference between seeing to believe and believing to see. Most people want to see the path before they walk it, but faith says, walk first. The path will appear under your feet. Now, the truth, real truth, isn't always soft, it isn't always sweet, and it sure isn't always easy to accept. Sometimes it comes dressed as disappointment. Sometimes it comes as loss. Sometimes it shows up when you thought you were doing everything right and suddenly you're staring at a door that just slammed in your face. And in those moments, faith doesn't just reveal the truth about God. It reveals the truth about you, about what you believe, what you cling to, and what you're made of when comfort is gone. When life shakes you, it's not trying to break you, it's trying to show you what's unshakable. Faith strips away the false parts, the noise, the ego, the pride, and leaves you standing with what's real. And what's real isn't always what's visible. Sometimes the most real things are the things you can't see, can't measure, can't prove, but you feel them. Deep in your bones, deep in your spirit, that's where truth lives. See, faith has a funny way of revealing things you didn't ask to see. You might pray for clarity and instead God gives you chaos because he knows the only way to see what's real is to shake what's fake. You might ask for peace and he gives you pressure because pressure purifies. You might ask for strength and he gives you struggle because strength can't grow in safety. That's the divine irony of faith. It rarely gives you what you want, but it always gives you what you need. Faith isn't blind, it's visionary. It doesn't close its eyes to reality. It sees beyond it. It sees the unseen. It trusts the process when the process feels painful. And it holds steady when logic says it's over. Because truth doesn't always arrive dressed like victory. Sometimes it looks like defeat, like rejection, like silence. But silence doesn't mean absence. God does some of his best talking when we stop demanding to hear him. There's a sacred stillness that only faith can walk you into. A place where you stop asking, why me? And start saying, show me. And when you say that, when you really mean it, truth begins to unfold like a sunrise, slowly, beautifully, in its own time. Faith teaches patience, and patience reveals purpose. That's the rhythm of divine timing. You can't rush what's meant to refine you. The hardest truth faith reveals is that you were never really in control. And that's a tough pill to swallow, especially in a world that tells you to hustle, to grind, to force your way through everything. But real peace doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. Kind of surrender that says, I don't understand this yet, but I trust that it's for me, not against me. And the moment you reach that point where you stop wrestling with the unknown and start walking with it, life changes. Fear loses its power. doubt loses its voice, and your heart starts beating in rhythm with something eternal. Faith isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It moves quietly like a river under the surface, shaping stones with steady persistence. Truth doesn't rush to reveal itself because it knows what it's worth. And when you finally see it, when the fog clears and the light hits your life in just the right way, you'll realize it was never hiding. You just had to grow eyes that could see it. There are moments when faith will take you places logic would have never dared to go. And when you look back, you'll realize every delay was direction. Every setback was set up, and every unanswered prayer was protection. The truth you were chasing was chasing you the whole time. It was just waiting for you to stop running on your own strength. Faith reveals truth not by removing the dark, but by teaching you how to see in it. It's not about getting out of the storm. It's about learning that even in the storm, you're not alone. It's about realizing that sometimes God doesn't calm the sea. He calms you so you can walk through it. And when you reach the other side, when you look back on all the nights you thought you wouldn't make it, you'll see that every detour had direction. Every tear watered the ground for new growth, and every test was a testimony in disguise. That's the truth faith reveals. Not the kind that changes your circumstances first, but the kind that changes you from within. So keep walking, even when you can't see the finish line. Keep believing, even when believing feels foolish. Because faith doesn't just reveal what's real, it creates it. The truth isn't waiting somewhere out there. It's waiting to be uncovered in you. Character over fame. That's a lesson most people don't want to hear in a world that's obsessed with being seen. Everybody wants the spotlight. Everybody wants recognition, followers, applause, a name that trends for a day, a week, a year. But character, that's what lasts when the lights go out. Fame is loud, but character, it whispers. And in the end, those whispers will echo a lot longer than any cheer ever could. Fame tells you that if people know your name, you've made it. But character knows better. Character says, if you know who you are when no one's watching, that's when you truly arrived. There's a difference between being known and being real. See, fame feeds the ego, but character feeds the soul. And the soul is the only thing you're taking with you when the curtain falls. There's a funny thing about fame. It promises power, but it takes your peace. It gives you attention, but it costs you authenticity. You start living for approval instead of purpose, and before you know it, you're performing instead of living. The crowd claps and you smile, but deep down you know it's not you they're cheering for, it's the image. And that's a lonely feeling. Because when the performance ends and the mask comes off, you're left standing there, asking yourself, who am I when the applause fades? Character doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't post for approval. Character stands tall in silence. It shows up on the hard days. It chooses honesty when lying would be easier. It forgives when bitterness would feel better. It takes responsibility when excuses are right there waiting. Character isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. And real doesn't always shine, but it always stands. You can't buy character. You can't fake it for long either. You can wear a nice suit, speak fancy words, charm every room you walk into. But eventually pressure will reveal what's beneath the polish. Pressure doesn't build character, it exposes it. That's why life lets you face disappointment, betrayal, and failure. It's not punishment, it's proof. Proof of what you're really made of. When life squeezes you, whatever's inside comes out. If it's patience, grace, and humility, that's character. If it's arrogance, blame, and pride, that's something to work on. The world tells you to protect your reputation, but reputation is what people think you are. Character is what God knows you are. Reputation can change overnight. Character takes a lifetime to build, and every decision you make, every word, every reaction, every compromise either adds a brick to that foundation or